Hi, I'm Dan and welcome to the Airbrush Garage. If you're new here, welcome. Returning, thanks for coming back. Today I'm going to be talking about how to mix Candy 2.0 colors by Createx. I'm going to give you the different mix ratios between an airbrush and a spray gun. In addition to the mix ratios, I'm going to take an in-depth look on the candy itself. Then I'm going to do a spray out for you to show you 5 different layers and how each layer of the candy produces a darker candy color. Then I'm going to finish up with what to top coat the candy with. So if that's something you're interested in, please stick around. Consider subscribing. Hit that bell so you get future notifications. A thumbs up would be great. Don't forget to check out all my Amazon affiliate links down below for the products I use in this video and all my other videos. With that, let's get started. All right, before we get started mixing, a little bit about the Candy 2.0. The Candy 2.0 is a true dye. And what I mean by that, it needs a carrier. You can't just spray just the candy out of the gun and expect it to dry and have results. So it needs a carrier. So the 4050 UVLS clear is going to be our carrier. We're going to mix it in an airbrush 1:1. If you're going to mix it in a spray gun, it's going to be 6:1. It can be as high as 8:1 if you're mixing in darker colors like emerald green or brandywine. Now, I've already mixed the brandywine 6:1 in a spray gun and sprayed just fine, but Createx does say that you can go to 8:1 on darker colors. Keep in mind when I'm giving you the ratios of 6:1, 8:1, it's 6 parts or 8 parts of the UVLS clear to 1 part of the Candy 2.0. Now, I know you probably watched some videos where they were mixing it with the 40-30 balancing clear. Honestly, take the 40-30 balancing clear and sorry Createx, throw it away. Createx doesn't even recommend, if you look at their data sheet, that you use the 40-30 balancing clear anymore either with their Candy 2.0s. You want to use the 40-50 gloss clear as your carrier. You won't have any gelling problems. I know I've got a lot of questions because I had the question way back when I was getting a lot of gelling problems when I first started using the Candy 2.0s, and it was due to the 40-30 and the 40-12 reducer. None of it was mixing all that well. If you use the 40-11, which you're only going to need for the airbrush mix, now I still do use it in the spray gun mix, but Createx again doesn't recommend, or it's not that they don't recommend, they're saying you don't need the 40-11 when you're mixing the 6:1 ratio for the spray gun. First of all, it's a much bigger tip size than the 3.5 that we're going to be spraying it through today. And the Candy 2.0 actually helps thin out the 40-50 to begin with. But when you're spraying through a smaller tip size, like the 3.5 Eclipse that we're going to be spraying through today, it's still recommended, and I still like to do at least 10% of the 40-11 reducer. Again, it's not going to hurt if you use it in your spray gun. It's just not necessary. All right, so with that, let's get started mixing up the 1:1 mix with the 10% reducer for the airbrush. All right, so you always want to shake up your UVLS clear. You can hear the marble inside. Give it a good shake. You also want to shake up your Candy 2.0. Even if it doesn't have a marble inside, I still like to shake up my paints or whatever it might be. All right, so I got my mixing cup here. I'm going to mix up a 1/2 ounce, so I got 1/4 of the UVLS clear. And I got 1/4 of the candy for a total of a 1/2 ounce. The color I'm using here is Sunset Magenta. I'm going to use just a splash of the 40-11. So we're going to mix this up good for about a minute, and then we're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes. That will allow the alcohol in the 40-11 to melt or emulsify with the candy and the UVLS clear, blending it all together much more nicely. You'll definitely get a better spray out if you just be patient and give it the extra 10 minutes. All right, so I prepped the board with Audubon Sealer Silver, which is a really good base for your candies. You can use anything you want for a candy. You got to realize that, again, it is totally transparent, so it needs to go over something. Now, we could have sprayed right on the white board, and I could have built it up from there, but I wanted to show you what it looked like over the Audubon Silver Sealer. It really is the best way to look at these candies. So after you let this sit, this has been sitting for quite some time, actually. It was sitting here while I was prepping that board with the sealer, so it's been sitting for a good 20 minutes. Make sure you give it one last mix before you put it in the gun and start spraying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this out. I'm going to spray 1 coat on everything, and then I'm going to go to 2 coats, 3 coats, 4 coats, and then 5 coats. Then we'll be able to see the value of the darkness of each coat as we add layers. All right, well, I'm back and I did a spray out. And as you can see, the difference in intensity or values of each coat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 coats with a clear over it. When you're painting with candies, you're always going to want to do 4 to 6 coats. I stopped here at 5, but 4 to 6 coats is what's recommended. You're never really going to want to use just 1 or 2 coats of a candy. You're really not going to be able to build it up to the intensity that you want it to be. The other thing is I had some questions on, can you use Candy 2.0 over illustration colors? I guess. I never did, and I never will. They're two different, very distinctly different paints. And when you're using the illustration colors, you're going to want to use those for all interior applications, your portraits, your illustration paintings. Whereas a product like this is for automotive type of applications, whether it be a motorcycle tank or a car hood. So these are for exterior applications, which leads me to telling you a little bit more in depth about what the candies really are. So the Candy 2.0s are a metal complex dye, which are light, fast, and suitable for exterior applications. While they're not light, fast, pigment base colors, they're not a fugitive color like a fluorescent color, which is not really light, fast at all. Suppose like parking it in the sun for a day or a few hours, but being garage kept will last for many, many years. Candy 2.0s appear in a dark solution, but after coating them with a gloss clear, as you can see, it really brings out the vibrance and the brilliance of the color. You're going to want to top coat your candies with a good 2K catalyst clear, which will also lend to the light fastness and UV protectiveness, because there's a lot of that protection as well in the catalyzed clear. You don't want to top coat this with the 4053 UV clear or any of the clears for that matter. Now, I know some people have used the 4050 as a clear, but I don't particularly like to use the product that was a carrier as the clear. So just do yourself a favor, just go with the 2K clear. So you gotta realize the Candy 2.0 is a 100% transparent paint. It's not a semi-transparent paint. It's intended as a mid-coat application over metallic or pearl colors. In this case, I put it over the silver Autoborn sealer, as you see right here. You can also mix these candies with other candies to create custom candy colors, or you could even mix them with the metallics or the pearl colors. Another important point about candy colors is, unlike pigment colors, Candy 2.0s will bleed or leach into your top coats. So for example, if I had to come in here and put some detail or opaque white over this candy, it's going to bleed through and make my white appear pink. So what you have to do is you have to lock down your candy color first with a 2K catalyst clear. Createx makes a product called 4040 Bleed Checker, and this works really well. The only issue with this is it takes a little bit more time to use. You got to use 2 coats, approximately 15 to 30 minutes. You got to let this dry between coats before you can come back and put your next coat of candy on. You're looking at about an hour in between locking each coat down. So this can get time consuming. With the 2K clear with proper airflow over it, I can get it dry in about 15 minutes. So it really is up to you. The other question I get a lot of time is, well, how long do I have to wait to mask it? With the Candy 2.0, if you run proper air over it and you're in an environment about 70 to 75 degrees, you can come back in after 60 minutes and start taping on this. Using a vinyl or wax tape, avoid crepe paper tapes. Another trick to using this, if you're using the darker candies, the other thing you can do is you could apply a cheater coat. A cheater coat would be after applying your metallic sealer. And again, silver is not the only metallic sealer Createx has in the Autoborn. There's many others. But after applying that, what you could do is come in with a 1-to-1 mix between your sealer and your candy, mix them together, and put a coat over your sealer as your first cheater coat. I don't do this all the time. I have tried it. It works pretty well. But what it does is with the darker colors, it helps lay down a more uniform coat. After you put that cheater coat on, then you can just go to your regular normal mix of your candies for your second, third, fourth, fifth, and maybe even sixth coat. Another question I get is, well, I peeled the tape off and a little bit peeled off with it. How do I fix it? The answer is, it's really hard to fix. Because of having to build these colors up in intensity, if you were to come back and start back to the base color or white, it's going to be very difficult because some of the surrounding spray is going to get onto what you don't want it to, and that's going to continue to build intensity. So it's very difficult to do. I have done it. You're not going to probably achieve 100% results. I've gotten it very close by taping off everything in the surrounding area and rebuilding that up to try to match the intensity. 2 last things, cleaning and pot life. You're not going to clean this up with just water. You really do got to give it the initial cleaning with the 4011. Make sure everything's all cleaned out. If you want to give it its last wash out with a little bit of warm soapy water or just warm water, you can do that as well. But the initial cleanup is going to have to come with the 4011. As far as pot life goes, if you mix the candy and the UVLS clear together, and you don't add the 4011, you can put that in an airtight container and it has no pot life. It will be just fine. As soon as you introduce the 4011 to it, you have about 48 hours. So I only ever mix up about the amount that I'm going to use. Well, that's going to about wrap it up for how to mix and use the Createx Candy 2.0s. If you have any additional questions, please leave it down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer your questions as quickly as possible. And with that, if you like this type of content, you know the drill. Consider subscribing, hit those links, a couple comments, good or bad. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm, helps this channel grow. We've been growing at a nice steady pace, and I really appreciate it, all you guys. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.